In this video, we're going to demonstrate how we can add a standby server for local HA. So let's get started. So I'm going to first log into Continuity Engine Management Service. And if you've already seen the video that allowed us to deploy Continuity Engine onto your primary server, that is a prerequisite for this. So we assume that you have already seen that video. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a standby server for local HA. There's two ways that we can do this. We can either do it from the actions menu where we can add a standby server, or we can do it directly from here. So notice that we have a primary server now deployed, but we have no standby servers or for local HA. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend the cluster. So I'm going to add the standby server, and it brings up a wizard that allows us to do this in a very visual way. So notice that we can do the primary, secondary, and tertiary here. In this case, we're going to do an HA deployment. So all we have to do is set up the primary and secondary. So the production and the HA copy. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on the channel between this, and we're going to select the network adapters. In this case, we only have one for this server. And then we can put in the IP addresses for the primary channel and also the secondary channel. So the first one is 192.168.0.66. We do not have to add the subnet mask because it defaults to 255.255.255.0. So if your subnet mask is that, then you're good. Otherwise, you can put the specific one for your subnet in. So the next one we're going to do is for the secondary server or the HA copy, and we're going to put 192.168.0.67 for our IP address for our secondary or HA copy of our cluster. So now what we're going to do is we're going to then select the HA node, the secondary, and we're going to tell it exactly where we're going to put it. And then in this case, we are going to have a couple different options on how we're going to build the secondary server. In this video, we're going to concentrate on an automated deployment, but you have also what we call the assisted cloning process. So the idea here is that in an assisted process, once you get to the end of this wizard, it's going to tell you that the primary is ready to be cloned, and then you can call your virtual machine or physical server administrator, and you can do a manual clone of those virtual machine or the physical server itself. We have registered a vCenter here, so we are in a VMware environment. So I'm going to select the automated deployment option. And because I have a vCenter associated with this deployment of Continuity Engine Management Service, I can select from the virtual inventory. So I'm going to select the ESXi host, and that is it. That's all we need to do to configure an HA pair. Now I'm going to click on the next button. It will confirm the configuration, especially the IP addresses. Just pay attention to this. And then we hit the finish button. And notice at the bottom, there's a little green pop-up box that says cloning process has started. If we click on operations in progress, you will actually see the details of the process as we extend the cluster. So the first thing that it does is it reconfigures Continuity Engine on the primary server, and then it prepares to extend the cluster. Now we're waiting for the server to become active, the primary. And now notice that the cloning operation has begun. So now we're using the vCenter APIs to create your secondary server or your HA copy. Now we can also see this through vCenter itself. So if I look over here, notice that there is now an HA copy that's being cloned, and you can see the cloning operation at the bottom here. So we inject that that task into vCenter, so you can see it real time. So now all we have to do is just wait for this process to complete. Okay, the cloning process has completed, and now, as you can see, Continuity Engine has told vCenter to power on our virtual machine, the HA copy or the secondary. And then it'll transition into reconfiguring or doing the auto configuration process. So we wait for the boot up process to happen, and then Continuity Engine will start first, and then it will reconfigure itself to become a secondary server. It will assign the IP address, the 192.168.0.67 address to the secondary for the channel, and then the full system check begins. So this takes probably about 5 minutes for this to happen. So we'll pause here and then we will continue the video. Okay, so now Continuity Engine is in the process of startup. The channel has now connected and the full system check is happening. And now we have a replicated virtual machine in a high availability mode. So now, as you can see, the primary is active and the secondary is passive for high availability. We have communication between them, both are replicating. And if we go over to the data tab, we have 0 RPO, everything is replicating, there's nothing in queue. And our services are now being monitored for this server. So this concludes our presentation of how to create an HA pair for Continuity Engine.